A swimmer is losing the argument with the sea. Their strokes have become smaller. Their head rises, drops, rises again. Farther out, a few dorsal fins cut through the water. The dolphins circle once, then one of them passes beneath the swimmer's legs. A second animal appears beside the person's shoulder. Minutes later, the swimmer reaches shore alive. That is the version of the story people remember. Dolphins recognized a drowning human and chose to help. It may have happened that a dolphin's actions kept someone afloat or moved them towards safety. But the leap from a dolphin was near a survivor to the dolphin felt empathy for a drowning person is much larger than it sounds. There is no strong, systematic body of evidence showing that dolphins identify human drowning, understand its cause, and deliberately rescue people out of empathy. The title points toward a real mystery, but it gives one human word, empathy, more certainty than the evidence can carry. And yet the question is worth taking seriously. Dolphins do sometimes behave in ways that look uncannily like rescue. They may support a weak companion near the surface. They may gather around a distressed animal. They can coordinate with one another with impressive precision. In rare interactions with humans, they may approach, nudge, block, guide, or simply stay nearby at a moment when a person is in real danger. The difficult part is not deciding whether dolphins are intelligent enough to be interesting. They are. The difficult part is figuring out what a particular action means from the dolphin's side of the water. To see why, start with the word rescue. For a human lifeguard, a rescue has a clear structure. Someone sees danger, understands that another person cannot solve it alone, accepts some cost or risk, and acts toward a specific outcome. We can ask the lifeguard what they saw. We can compare their choice with alternatives. We can tell whether they were trained. With a dolphin, we usually see only the middle of the story. Movement. A dolphin pushes against a body. A dolphin swims between a person and open water. A dolphin stays close. Those actions can matter enormously. But movement is not a diary entry. The same nudge could be exploration, play, an attempt to move an unfamiliar object, a learned response to a distressed animal, a reaction to splashing, or something closer to targeted assistance. That is why dramatic rescue accounts are so hard to evaluate. They often come from people who were exhausted, frightened, underwater, or separated from the dolphins by waves and poor visibility. The person's memory may be completely sincere and still be incomplete. A dolphin seen guiding someone toward shore might have been traveling in the same direction. A dolphin that seemed to hold a swimmer up may have bumped them while investigating. A group that formed a ring around a person may have been reacting to something in the water that the person never saw. None of that proves the dolphins did nothing. It means the central question cannot be answered by the ending alone. Survival is powerful evidence that help was needed. It is not automatic evidence that the helper understood the emergency in human terms. The strongest clue comes not from dolphins and people, but from dolphins and dolphins. A dolphin must surface to breathe. That makes a sick, injured, exhausted, or dead companion near the surface a socially and physically important problem. Researchers use the term epileptic behavior for cases in which animals attend to or assist a distressed, dying, or dead group member. The word is deliberately descriptive. It tells us what the behavior looks like without pretending that it has already revealed the animal's private motive. In one detailed underwater observation, several wild bottlenose dolphins interacted with a severely distressed female. They formed what researchers called raft formations, lifted her, and gave directed pushes that appeared to bring her toward the surface. In a species that breathes air but lives in water, the function of that movement is hard to miss. Keeping another dolphin near the surface can be the difference between breathing and not breathing. That is real assistance at the behavioral level. It is far more informative than a blurry legend because the animals involved share the same body plan, the same breathing problem, and the same social world. There is an equally important complication. Dolphins and other cetaceans have also been observed carrying or supporting individuals that were already dead. In those cases, holding a body at the surface cannot restore breathing. The action may reflect attachment, a failure to recognize death, a parental response that outlasts the calf, or another process researchers cannot yet separate. It is moving behavior, but it warns us against treating every lift or escort as a calculated rescue. The same outward motion can have different functions depending on whether the companion is alive, how old it is, and what relationship exists between the animals. But even here, caution matters. A dolphin helping a companion reach air does not automatically prove that the helper is experiencing compassion in the human sense. The behavior may be linked to a close social bond. It may be triggered by distress calls. It may be part of a powerful maternal response, especially when a calf is involved. It may be a social rule that evolved because groups do better when members stay alive. Several explanations can overlap. Nature does not require a behavior to have only one reason. This is where empathy gets slippery. In everyday conversation, empathy means feeling what someone else feels. In science, it is often separated into layers. The simplest layer is emotional contagion. Another individual's distress changes your own state. A more demanding layer involves recognizing that someone else is in trouble and directing behavior toward them. The most demanding version includes something like perspective taking, responding not just to a signal of distress, but to the other individual's situation. Those layers are difficult to separate even in humans. With dolphins, the challenge is much greater because they cannot tell us what they noticed, what they expected, or whether they represented the other animal's need the way we would. Researchers therefore look for patterns instead of relying on one moving story. Does the dolphin change its behavior specifically when another individual is distressed? Does it help more when help is useful? Does it distinguish a familiar partner from a stranger? Does it act differently when there is no immediate reward? Can the pattern survive alternative explanations? Dolphins have given scientists reasons to ask those questions. Their societies can be complex and fluid. Individuals form associations, cooperate in some situations, and use learned signals. In controlled research, bottlenose dolphins have coordinated their actions with a partner to solve tasks that require timing. That does not demonstrate kindness. It does demonstrate that two dolphins happen to move together is often too simple an explanation for their cooperation. At the same time, a cooperative skill is not a blank check for every warm interpretation. In one small captive study, dolphins were given opportunities to transfer tokens that would allow another dolphin to get a preferred toy. The animals in that study did not spontaneously share the tokens in the expected prosocial way. That result does not show that dolphins never help. It shows something more useful. Helping depends on the context, the relationship, the task, the reward, and perhaps on whether the animals understand what the experiment is asking of them. A species can coordinate beautifully in one situation and show little interest in an artificial favor in another. That is exactly why dolphin behavior should not be squeezed into either of two bad stories. The first bad story says dolphins are underwater, people, gentle, moral, universally friendly, and always looking for chances to save us. The second says that unless dolphins can pass a human-style empathy test, every apparently helpful action is meaningless reflex. Both stories miss the animal in front of us. A dolphin is a fast, social, air-breathing predator, built for an environment where visibility changes, sound travels far, and another body near the surface can signal danger. It may be exquisitely responsive to movement, vocal distress, position, and social contact. That responsiveness can produce behavior that benefits another individual without requiring the dolphin to hold a human concept of drowning. Now add a human to that environment. A person struggling at the surface produces an odd package of signals: splashing, irregular movement, sounds, changing body position, perhaps panic, perhaps blood or fish nearby, perhaps the attention of other animals. A dolphin may notice that something is wrong in a broad sense. It may respond to the motion. It may be attracted by novelty. It may react as it would to a distressed conspecific. It may make contact in a way that is helpful. It may also make contact in a way that is dangerous. The human version of the story has an extra problem. We are primed to read benevolence into dolphins before they do anything at all. Dolphins can detect and discriminate a great deal about nearby objects through vision and sound. But noticing a human-shaped body is not the same as inferring this animal cannot get air. That is a very specific cross-species conclusion, and no experiment has established that dolphins make it during an emergency. A response can be sensitive without being a diagnosis. Their mouth shape gives them what looks like a permanent smile. They surface close to boats. They ride waves and bow waves. They are famous in stories, films, and children's books as the ocean's friendliest citizens. A dolphin approaching a swimmer already arrives inside a ready-made narrative. When the swimmer survives, the narrative locks into place. The dolphin knew. But a curved mouth is anatomy, not a facial expression. Curiosity is not a contract, and a wild animal choosing to approach is not inviting a person to approach back. The real documented relationship between dolphins and humans is more interesting than the rescue myth because it contains both coordination and conflict. On the coast of southern Brazil, wild bottlenose dolphins and net-casting fishers have developed a cooperative fishing practice. The dolphins herd fish and give cues that help fishers time their casts. When the timing is right, the people catch more fish, and the dolphins also gain better feeding opportunities around the nets. This is not a fairy tale about one species serving another. It is a working arrangement in which both sides benefit. That distinction matters. Dolphins can pay close attention to human behavior. They can learn patterns that link human movements to useful outcomes. In the fishing partnership, their behavior is not evidence that they feel sorry for hungry people. It is evidence that different species can coordinate when ecology makes coordination profitable. A possible dolphin rescue may also involve a practical pattern, rather than a human-like intention. A dolphin could move toward a person because the person is behaving unusually. It could stay with an exhausted swimmer because group contact is a familiar response to distress. It could push from below because pushing bodies upward is part of its experience with vulnerable companions. If the person then reaches air or shore, the outcome may be life-saving, regardless of whether the dolphin understood the person's predicament. That outcome still deserves respect. A life saved by an action does not become less valuable because the motive is uncertain. The mistake is not feeling amazed. The mistake is claiming a view into the dolphin's mind that the evidence has not earned. There is another reason to keep the myth in check. It can make people behave dangerously around wild dolphins. Someone who believes dolphins are natural lifeguards may enter the water expecting protection. Someone may see an approaching dolphin as a friendly invitation and try to touch, feed, chase, or swim alongside it. That is unsafe for people and disruptive for dolphins. Wild dolphins can bite, ram, or become aggressive, particularly when they have been fed or have learned to associate humans with food. Close human encounters can also interrupt feeding, resting, nursing, and travel. The animal that appears to be leisurely cruising near shore may be trying to rest with half its brain at a time. A crowd of swimmers can turn that rest into a very expensive problem with fins. This does not make dolphins villains. It makes them wild, and it brings us back to the person struggling in the water. Could dolphins notice that a human is in trouble? Possibly. Could their social sensitivity, curiosity, or responses to distress lead them to act in a way that helps? Also possible. Could a dolphin's contact make the difference between a person sinking and staying at the surface long enough to survive? In rare cases, that may be exactly what happened. But do dolphins really feel empathy for drowning humans? Science cannot currently say yes. The strongest evidence shows that dolphins can coordinate, form social bonds, and sometimes provide behaviorally meaningful assistance to distressed members of their own species. The evidence does not show that a dolphin sees a drowning human, understands the human's need for rescue, and acts from the same kind of empathic concern we might feel for another person. That limit is not a disappointing ending. It is the part that makes the question honest. A dolphin that supports a weak companion near the surface is not performing a symbol of human kindness. It is responding inside a world where breath, motion, sound, and social contact can become urgent in seconds. When that world overlaps with ours, a dolphin may sometimes do something that looks like a miracle from the beach. The miracle is not that dolphins are secretly people. It is that another kind of mind can meet a crisis with action and leave us with a rescued person, a moving body in the waves, and a question we are still learning how to ask.